I, 29 male, have always been a guy who keeps his head down, pays the bills, and tries to do the right thing. I work in supply chain management. High stress, long hours, but it pays well enough that I could support the lifestyle my ex demanded. We'd been together 4 years, engaged for one. Looking back, the red flags were just a sea of red I mistook for passion. She was the type to send a dish back 3 times because it wasn't aesthetic enough, or demand I trade shift to drive her to a brunch she was perfectly capable of getting an Uber for. I ignored it because I loved her, or maybe just because I was used to the chaos. The bomb dropped on February 11th, 3 days before Valentine's Day. I had reservations at a high-end steakhouse she'd been nagging me about for 6 months, the kind of place you need to know a guy to get a table at. I had a diamond necklace hidden in my sock drawer. I came home tired, ready to just crash and maybe watch a movie, but she was sitting at the kitchen table. No tears, no tissues, just scrolling on her phone with a glass of wine, looking bored. She told me we needed to talk. I sat down, heart rate spiking a little, expecting maybe she went over budget on the wedding planning again or had a fight with her mom. Instead, she sighed, like explaining this was a chore she wanted to get over with. She said she felt stifled. She felt like we'd fallen into a routine, and she was losing her spark. She told me she needed to know if this marriage was actually what she wanted, or if she was just settling because it's safe. I asked her if she was calling off the wedding. We were 6 months out. Deposits were paid. She said no, not calling it off. She wanted a break, just for a bit, to see if she missed me, to gain clarity. She wanted to stay at her sister's place for a week, maybe 2. She told me not to contact her, saying she'd call me when she was ready. The old me would have begged. I would have promised a change, to be more exciting, to take her on more trips. But something in her tone, the absolute lack of empathy, the calculation, the way she sipped her wine like she was discussing the weather, snapped something inside me. It wasn't sadness. It was clarity. She didn't want a break. She wanted a hall pass. She wanted to test drive someone else and keep me in the garage in case the new ride broke down. So I just said okay. She blinked, actually looking surprised. She asked me what I meant. I told her if she needed space to see if she missed me, she should take it, take all the time she needed. She looked disappointed that I didn't fight for her. That was her first act of entitlement right there. She wanted the freedom to leave, and the ego boosted me begging her to stay. She packed a bag and left an hour later. Here is where the timeline gets interesting. She didn't go to her sister's. I know this because her cousin, 27, texted me 30 minutes after my ex walked out. Her cousin has always been the black sheep of their family because she's honest, successful on her own merits, and doesn't buy into their family's drama, which makes my ex jealous. Her cousin and I had always been cool, purely platonic, but we bonded over how exhausting that family could be. She texted to ask if I was okay because my ex had just posted a story about new beginnings to her close friends list on Instagram, but she forgot she hadn't removed her cousin from that list yet. I called her cousin immediately and told her about the break. She went silent for a moment and then told me she shouldn't be telling me this, but she was going to because she respected me. She told me my ex wasn't at her sister's. She was at the downtown Hyatt. Apparently, she'd been talking to a client from her PR firm for weeks. Guy has money, drives a Porsche, the whole 9 yards. She thought she had a shot with him, but she didn't want to lose her safety net, me, in case it didn't work out. The blood rushed to my ears. It wasn't just a hall pass. It was a branch swing. She was holding on to me while reaching for the next branch, making sure she had a grip before letting go. I thanked her cousin and hung up. The next 2 days were a blur of cold fury. I didn't drink. I didn't mope. I moved. I called the landlord. Our lease was technically month-to-month since January, and we were supposed to renew in April. I explained the situation. Since I paid 100% of the rent, she saved her money for the wedding, a.k.a. her wardrobe. The landlord liked me. He told me that since she had technically abandoned the property by moving out with her essentials, he could draft a new lease solely in my name starting immediately, provided I covered the full deposit transfer. I did it. Then I did something impulsive. I texted her cousin on the morning of the 14th asking if she was doing anything for Valentine's. She said she was planning on watching Netflix and eating clearance chocolate. I told her I had the reservation at the steakhouse and couldn't get a refund on the deposit. I asked if she wanted to go as friends because I couldn't stand the thought of my ex thinking I was sitting at home crying. Her cousin said yes instantly. February 14th arrived. I put on my best suit. I felt strange, liberated. Her cousin looked incredible. Not just the dress, but the vibe. She was fun, sharp, and actually asked me questions about my life. We drank expensive wine and ate the food my ex had claimed was her dream meal. We laughed. Genuine laughter. I snapped a photo of our desserts and posted on my story. No caption, just a location tag. At 9:15 p.m., my phone buzzed on the white tablecloth. It was my ex. I looked at her cousin. She smirked and told me to put it on speaker, but keep it low. I answered. Her voice was soft, slightly slurring. She sounded drunk and sad. She told me she was sitting there and just missed me. She said I was right, that the space made her realize how much she loved me and that the silence was deafening without me. Translation: the rich client pumped and dumped her or canceled on her last minute. The branch snapped and she was falling. I cut into my steak and told her that was good to know. She said she wanted to come home. She said she could be there in 20 minutes and we could still say Valentine's. She even mentioned she bought that lingerie I liked. I told her I couldn't right now. The tone shifted instantly from seductive to sharp. She asked why and if I was working. I said no, I was at dinner. She asked if I was by myself, sounding offended that I was eating. I said no, I was on a date. Silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. Then the explosion. She screamed that we were on a break, that we were still engaged, and asked how dared I. She demanded to know who it was. I looked at her cousin. She winked. I told her I was with her cousin. The scream that came through the phone was so loud, I had to turn the volume down. She called her cousin a snake and accused me of cheating. I reminded her she asked for a break to see if she missed me. I agreed to it. I was a single man right now, and her cousin was single. I told her we were having a great time and the steak was fantastic. She screamed that she was coming to the apartment right now to throw my stuff on the street and ruin me. I told her to do what she had to do and hung up. Her cousin looked at me and said she was going to go nuclear. I said I was ready. We finished dessert, paid the bill, and headed back to my place. I knew she'd be there. I needed a witness. When we pulled up to the apartment complex, her car was double parked in the fire lane. I could see her pacing in the lobby. I buzzed us in. As soon as the elevator doors opened on my floor, she lunged. She looked like a wreck, mascara smeared, hair wild. She ignored me and went straight for her cousin, raising a hand to slap her. I caught her wrist in midair and told her to stop. She whipped her head toward me, eyes manic, screaming that I was defending her and sleeping with her cousin. She kept yelling, 3 days, 3 days. I released her wrist and stepped back, telling her she left. She told me to take all the time I need. I realized I didn't need any time to figure out I'm done being her backup plan. She laughed a high-pitched, hysterical sound and told me she was the best thing that ever happened to me, that I was boring and just a logistics manager, and she gave me status. I told her she gave me debt and headaches. I tried to unlock the door, and she tried to push past me, yelling that she was sleeping there because it was her apartment. I blocked the doorway and told her actually it wasn't. I informed her about the lease situation. I told her she could come in to get her remaining things under my supervision, but she wasn't staying. She stormed past me into the living room and grabbed a vase, one my mother gave me, and smashed it on the floor. She screamed that she was going to break everything I owned until I apologized. Her cousin pulled out her phone and started recording. She calmly said to keep going because it would look great in small claims court. My ex froze. She realized she had an audience. She switched tactics immediately. The tears started. Instant weaponized victimhood. She collapsed onto the sofa, sobbing, asking how I could do this to her. She admitted she went to see that guy because she was scared of commitment, but claimed nothing happened and that he was gross. She said she just wanted me. I pointed out she wanted to see him, so she cheated. She shrieked that it wasn't cheating if we were on a break. The irony was suffocating. I told her I needed the ring back. I said, "Give me the ring, take your clothes, and leave." She clutched her left hand and refused, saying it was hers, a gift. I kept my voice steady and told her that in this state, an engagement ring is a conditional gift. The condition is marriage. No marriage, no ring. I told her to give it to me, or I'd file a lawsuit tomorrow. She looked at me with pure hatred and said the words that sealed her fate. She said, "If you try to take this ring, I'll call the police and tell them you hit me." The room went deadly silent. I looked at her cousin. She held up her phone and told my ex she'd been recording since we walked in. She said she had the vase smashing, the confession about the other guy, and the threat to file a false police report. She dared her to do it. My ex's face went pale. Her leverage was gone. She stood up, trembling with rage. She yanked the ring off her finger and threw it. It hit the wall and bounced under the TV stand. She told us she hoped we rotted. She pointed at her cousin and said the family would disown her. She looked at me and said I'd never find anyone as hot as her. She grabbed her purse and stormed out. She didn't even take her clothes. I retrieved the ring. Her cousin stopped recording. That night, I changed the locks just to be safe. The war wasn't over, though it was just beginning. The next morning, the harassment campaign started. She posted on every social media platform that I was abusive, that I cheated on her with her cousin while she was visiting family, and that I threw her out on the street. I started getting DMs from her friends, random people, even her mother, calling me a monster. Her cousin told me we needed to fix this because she was controlling the narrative. Her mom had already called her and disowned her. I went to my lawyer. We drafted a cease and desist for defamation. But more importantly, I compiled the evidence. 3 days later, I was at work when I got called into HR. My boss looked uncomfortable. He told me they received an email from my ex-fiancée. She claimed I stole company laptops and had been selling them. She also claimed I was using company funds for personal trips. She was trying to destroy my career. She knew my job was my lifeline. I told my boss she was lying, that we just broke up, and it was messy. He said they had to investigate and put me on administrative leave until they cleared it up. I walked out of the office with a box of my things. Shaking, she had crossed the line from petty to life-ruining. I sat in my car and called her cousin. I told her about the false embezzlement claims. Her voice went hard. She said, "No more Mr. Nice Guy." The family reunion was that Sunday. She said my ex was going to be there, playing the victim. We were going. I told her I wasn't invited. She said she was, and I was her +1. Sunday came. The family reunion was a backyard barbecue at her parents' house. I knew walking in there was walking into the lion's den, but I had nothing left to lose. My reputation was being torched, my job was on hold, and I was done being the punching bag. We walked in through the side gate. The chatter died instantly. Her father stood up from the grill, his face purple. Her mother dropped a plate of deviled eggs. My ex was holding court at a picnic table, looking fragile and teary-eyed, surrounded by sympathetic aunts. When she saw me, she screamed, asking what I was doing there and telling her dad to get me out because I hit her. Her father marched over, a large man who had never liked me. He told me I had some nerve showing my face and to get out before he made me. I stood my ground. I said I didn't hit her, and I wasn't leaving until they heard the truth. Her mother yelled that she didn't want to hear my lies and called me sick for cheating with her niece. Her cousin stepped forward and yelled for everyone to shut up for 5 minutes. The shock of her yelling silenced them. She told them they thought I was a villain, but they didn't know what their daughter did. Her mother argued she needed space. I said loud enough for the neighbors to hear that she needed a hotel room to screw her co-worker. My ex shrieked that I was lying. I pulled out my phone. I told them I had the recording of her admitting she went to see him. I had the receipts from a Hyatt she accidentally synced to our shared cloud account because she's not as smart as she thinks she is. And I had the recording from a night she broke into the apartment where she threatened to file a false police report if I didn't give her the ring. I held the phone up and asked who wanted to listen. Her father hesitated. He was a proud man, but he wasn't stupid. He told me to play it. My ex panicked and rushed toward me, yelling, "Dad, no!" Her cousin blocked her path. I connected to the Bluetooth speaker her cousin had conveniently brought in her tote bag. The audio was crisp. They heard her threaten to frame me for domestic violence. They heard the vase smash. Then they heard her voice, clear as day, admitting she wanted to see the other guy because she was scared of commitment, but he was gross. The silence in the backyard was heavier than the one on the phone. Her mother looked at her daughter, horrified. Her father looked like he was going to be sick. I turned to her father and told him about the work accusations. I explained she emailed my boss accusing me of theft. I told him that was libel per se. I said my lawyer was filing the suit the next day. I wasn't just suing for the damage to the apartment. I was suing for damages, legal fees, and emotional distress of her trying to ruin my livelihood. My ex was shaking, tears streaming down her face. Real ones this time. She wailed that I was ruining her life. I told her she ruined herself. She wanted to see if the grass was greener. Well, now she didn't have any grass. She had nothing. Her father looked at her and asked if she emailed my boss. She didn't answer. She just looked down. He roared at her to get inside. She flinched and ran into the house. Her father turned to me. He grunted an apology. He said he would pay for the vase and make sure she retracted the statement to my boss. I told him I appreciated that, but the lawsuit stood until my name was fully cleared. I looked at her cousin and asked if she was ready to go. She said yes, and we walked out. The aftermath was swift. Her father forced her to write a formal retraction to my company, admitting she lied out of spite. He also cut her off financially. No more rent assistance, no more car payments. My company reinstated me within a week after the retraction and the evidence I provided. They actually gave me a small bonus for the inconvenience, probably to avoid me suing them for wrongful suspension. I followed through with the small claims for the damage to the apartment and the legal fees. She didn't even show up to court. Default judgment in my favor. She now owes me about $4,000, which is being garnished from her wages. She tried to crawl back one last time. A week ago, I found a letter in my mailbox. No stamp, just hand-delivered. It was 6 pages of rambling about how she was confused and manipulated by the other guy and how we were soulmates. She said she missed the security I provided. I burned it in the sink. As for her cousin, we're taking it slow. We realized that our revenge date wasn't just revenge. We have actual chemistry. She gets my humor. She respects my work. And she doesn't treat people like accessories. We've been seeing each other for 2 months now. It's weird dating the cousin of your ex-fiancé, but honestly, it's the healthiest relationship I've ever been in. The family is still in chaos. My ex is living in a studio apartment with 2 roommates, working double shifts because her dad closed the wallet. She's blocked on everything. Last I heard, she's trying to become a lifestyle influencer on TikTok, spinning a story about how she survived a toxic relationship. But the comment section is usually full of people calling her out because her cousin's brother keeps leaking the truth. I learned a valuable lesson. When someone shows you their entitlement, believe them. When someone asks for a break to test the waters, you drown them in the ocean of their own consequences. I walked away with my dignity, my job, and the ring, which I sold to buy a motorcycle. She walked away with a garnished paycheck and a family that doesn't trust her.